Two friends of mine. And it's, I think, the first time that we've had two guests on in the same episode. So that will be fun and interesting to see how this goes. And we can just jump right into it. So, hey, guys.
Hey, Isaac and David.
Hi.
How's it going? Yeah, so I think that the easiest way to jump into it is just like each of you introduce yourself and kind of like what you do. And then we can go from there. So David, you can go first, and then, or I guess ladies first. So Nicole, you can go first.
Sure. My name's Nicole, and I'm a freelance designer based in Chicago. And I go by Doodle Loving Noodle on Instagram. I do non-work related stuff there. And right now, I have so I did like full time before at a motion studio called Laundry before, and then I worked at Google with Isaac and David as a contractor, and now I'm working as a freelance, working with ad agencies and motion studios here and there. Yeah,
Yeah.
Hi, my name is
that's me.
David. I'm a motion lead at Google. I before joining Google, I also worked in motion industry in LA with Nicole for about 5 to 8 years.
And then we all worked at Google together.
Yeah, we all met at Google.
Yeah,
Yay!
which was fun. How long had you guys been there? Because you were there, and then I joined like a little bit after. But how long were you guys there before I was there? Because David, you were the first, or Nicole was first?
Yeah, I was the first one, and I joined there as a contractor for about 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
and then the team needed little hands, and it's as a contractor, it is pretty hard to recommend someone to bring another contractor, but it they gave me a chance to recommend people, and since I knew Nicole well, I reached out to her, and also my manager found you, Isaac, I
Mm-hmm.
think, from your old roommate,
Yeah,
and that's why you joined.
yeah. Yeah, it was. Were you in San Francisco? Were you based in San Francisco, Nicole, or did you move out there for it?
I moved out from LA for the
Mm,
job, yeah.
yeah.
And actually the contract was only 6 months in the beginning, and I didn't know.
Oh,
Yeah, it's funny. So, but then it ended up being a 2-year contract, so
mm.
I got really lucky at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, because mine, I think I knew it was 6 months, and then after that, it ended, and I didn't renew it, and I went to New York, where I am now, because my then girlfriend, I think, then fiance, and
Hmm.
then wife was out here, so that's why I moved. Um, but yeah, you stayed on for like a little bit more, and then you moved now, and you're in Chicago doing freelance
Hmm.
kind of same contract stuff. But I think it's interesting all the different kind of styles that everyone has. Like David, you took more of like our like art director role, which was fun on our team, and then Nicole, you had more of like an illustrator, but also like motion design, cinema 4D ish background stuff, which was cool. And then I did just like general 3D stuff, motion design for us. So it was interesting to kind of like we built our own team. um, and we're like a little tiny ad agency inside of Google. But I'm interested because I don't think we've talked much about like what you guys were doing before you were at Google. So you said you were at Laundry, Nicole. So were you just doing like the same kind of illustration, motion design stuff there, or was it more like bigger 3D VFX stuff? Because I know Laundry does like a whole wide range of stuff.
So I was hired there as a designer.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't take any animation work, and I just focused on design. So I did a lot of like 3D, 2D work and a lot of typography
Mm.
because I have a background in graphic design and I didn't do any illustration back then.
Mm.
But then at Laundry, my creative directors, they kept on pushing me to do a lot of illustration work,
Mm-hmm.
which I was afraid of at the time. But then kind of grew out of that, and then I did a lot of like illustration work after all. And then I took a lot of like they gave me an art director role at the end almost. So I did a few art direction, and I was there for about 2.5 years.
Mm.
Then I took the job at Google, so I moved to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then David, what were you doing kind of before the Google stuff? Were you doing similar stuff, or was it more just like
So
directing?
Nicole was more of a designer, and
Mm-hmm.
I was more of a generalist.
Mm.
So I mainly worked at studios like Imaginary Forces, The Mill, and 72 and Sunny.
Mm.
And they already do have many staffs that handle designs too. And I brought up on the team like probably once the concept is set up, and then I do R&Ds and execute the design.
Mm. Yeah. So pretty similar to the stuff that we then like kind of transferred and did over at Google for our team, which was kind of fun because we had like a lot of control over like what we did, and it was interesting to see how like we just kind of like ran with a single idea. I just remember having lots of meetings talking about what we were going to do, and then like
Yeah.
having like a little bit of time to like go back. And last week I had a friend on who's like more moved away from agencies and went to like more of the like tech space, and he said that it's funny how much more you talk about your designs and like what you're
Mhm.
going to do, and then versus like the ad agency side that does just like run and gun. You just like try to get stuff done as fast as possible without like really thinking about the process behind it. But yeah, so that's kind of how we all got to know each other, and it was fun. And I think that our team was like very unique in like my experience of places that I've worked. It was fun to see how like much control they gave us, with like little direction here and there from like kind of the more like team leads that were on our teams. But I'm curious what you guys think now that you've done like Nicole, you're doing freelance right now. You've done contract in like tech space. You've also done just like general like animation house stuff. Like, what do you think are like the pros and cons of both places?
Um, I would say pros for working at a design studio is that you get to explore so many different projects,
Mm-hmm.
and like you don't crave for more like creativity because you have enough
Mm-hmm.
and you can do so much within. But hours were a little tough for me. So
Yeah.
so that I would say those are cons, but then they're more pros because you work with so many talented freelancers too while you're working staffs
Mm-hmm.
in the studio. So that was great. And working at a tech company like Google, I guess it depends on the team, but our team, um, we were kind of hired to do a specific project and develop a specific product too.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have like um, the same like creativity
Yeah.
challenges we would get at studios. So those are the cons, but the hours are good
The hours,
from what
yeah.
I remember. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I think those are the pros and cons. And I
Mm.
also worked at a startup agency, ad agency in Korea after Google. It
Mm.
had 8 people. That was very challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're always like trying to get things done ASAP, and you're always meeting clients. Um, yeah, getting trying to get new projects in. So
So that's like
yeah,
the first place you went after Google was to that startup?
yeah, startup ad agency.
Were you like the only designer?
I
If
was
there's only
the art
7 people?
director,
Oh, okay.
and there were two designers
That's fun.
with. Yeah,
What do you
yeah,
think,
it's fun.
David? You've
Pros
been
and
also,
cons.
yeah, you've been like everywhere.
Yeah, I've been to many studios. So pros about working at design studios, I guess you get to work with the freshest creative that's out there in design world,
That's true.
um, and you get to learn a lot about like animation techniques and design techniques from your peers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Also, your uh, work work is like it's a really fast pace, so you get to work on many different types of concepts too within a year. And the cons are like Nicole said, the hours are pretty long, and some of the feedbacks that we have to deal with are not always logical, and we just have to do it because
Mm-hmm.
we are the orders are trickled down all the way from the top to the studio, so sometimes we just have to do it,
Mm-hmm.
even though everyone thinks it's not right. um, but but other than that, like I'm I was very happy about my life at studio, so um, it's all good. And working at Google, the pros are um, the also the hours are good, but at the same time, you like I realized this after I became full time. You actually work really long hours. Like Isaac said, we do a lot of meetings, and if you're full time, you have more meetings, so you can't really do any project work during the normal hours, which is 9 to 4, 5, and so if you have like 3, 4 hours of meeting every day, and then all you have is like 3, 4 hours of working, and it gets you nowhere. So you actually have to go home and do a lot of design work. Um, but another pros about working at Google is like you really open up your eyes as a designer, not in terms of like probably like creativity, but also like you start to think about how user would interact,
Mm.
how user would react with your design, um, and also all the designs that go out off my hand needs to be like a really pixel perfect. Like I think it's more pixel perfect than when I was working on any broadcast work, because the viewers numbers are so much more than the commercials that I make. So any mistakes that they can pinpoint out, so they need to be really perfect. And I like learned how to be more cautious about what goes out of my hand. So that was good.
Yeah.
And the cons is um, yeah, like the extra work hours that I have to do, and also uh, I don't get as much strong feedback, design feedback as I got in design world.
Mm.
So as a designer, I'm always like thirst about like getting harsh comments sometimes, but people are really nice at Google, so they're trying to be passive aggressive about giving like critique about my design, and sometimes let's be really direct about this so we can get over this. But all
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I kind of remember some of that stuff from like different meetings we would have where like we just needed like real feedback, and I was used to kind of like more of that ad agency sort of feedback, or like at least coming from college. But like everyone is like they're not really like an artist, so they kind of like hold their tongue and they're like, I don't know, like maybe this is like we could do this, and you're just like, yeah, just like we just need to know like what you're thinking, and like we
Yeah, yeah.
value it, but everyone's like worried of stepping on your toes, or like because they're not a designer, they don't want to give like the wrong feedback, which is kind of funny. Did you come across any of that, Nicole, like at a startup where like you were kind of like the art director, so like no one really wanted to like tell you something different, or was it like because you needed to go fast, they were like a little bit more direct with what they were like
I
advising
think
you?
I think it's kind of weird, but because this was in Korea
Mm,
and because of the fact that I worked at Google, they trusted me so much
that's
with
good.
everything I did. Yeah, because they're really big with like big name
Mm,
companies in Asia. So whatever I did, they were like, "Oh, this is great," and there was no critique, I guess.
yeah,
So it was hard to kind of teach, like grow within
Yeah.
myself. Yeah, but overall, yeah, it was interesting because I got to learn how to like try to grow by myself
Yeah.
ish. Yeah.
Do you think like because of the comparison is like the amount of time you have after work, like between like agency or like freelance and like Google time? Because I feel like at Google we had like I probably had like my best like work life balance at least as like a contractor, which made me feel like I wanted to do more personal projects. And so do you think that like that is kind of a bonus, like if you're not as feeling like as creatively satisfied in like when we were working at Google, you could like have time to do like I know like Nicole, you have like your other Instagram that's like kind of personal projects. Did you feel like you had more time then at Google than you do like now? I guess you started it like after Google a little bit, but like I
I
feel like
actually,
personal project time is more or
mm,
no.
it's definitely yes because I started that account while I was working at Google. So I bought my first Cintiq when I was working there because I had so much time after work. So that's when I really like started doing illustration work.
Mm.
And luckily, like it's kind of amazing because now most of my freelance jobs are illustration work.
Oh,
It's something that I developed during my full-time job, a
Yeah.
contract job at Google. So yeah, that
And
was a
then
bonus.
and David used to like do personal stuff while doing like on the side jobs while doing your now like full-time job.
yeah. Um, so after work hours, I also do. I try to teach myself like what's the trends that in design right now. Because
Mm.
you don't really get to touch on those at Google, but I I think it's just my problem. I really admire like for example like Nicole. She has been just like doodling and developing her skills after work hours. But for my case, if I have so much time after work, I just play games and I just go play soccer. So
Oh yeah, because you're like very
my
big into soccer.
yeah, my designer David is kind of like turned off after work hours. So like if I want to be keep thinking about like good creatives and be as a designer, then I have to be in like if even if I get burned out during the long hours, I need to be in that mindset.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it's a little different.
Oh, and someone noted that there's a slight echo. So I think that's maybe that's yours, David. When
Mine.
Nicole talks, that it comes through your speakers. Because are you just listening through speakers?
Oh, I can turn off my mic
Oh,
and
okay,
while
yeah.
Nicole speaks.
Oh, cool. That will work. Okay, yeah, I think that that's what it was. Thanks David MW for noting that. Um, yeah, and I think how is like quarantine is like everyone's working remote. How much of a switch was that for you guys? Nicole, were you like remote freelance already, or was that like a jump like you had to go from being in studio to then like full time like at home remote, or are you not doing remote?
I was working remotely
Mm.
ever since I moved to Chicago, which was
Oh,
last year. So yeah, I was working remotely and then quarantine happened.
yeah,
So it's like the extension
yeah.
of everything. But
That was
yeah.
my thing. Like last year, I was like remote work with IF in LA for like 6 months, and then I started working like in studio for like 2 months somewhere, and then quarantine came, and then I was like, I already had my whole like at home setup already going, so I was like, it wasn't that. Everyone's like, how's working like remote for you? I was like, I don't know, it's the same as what I was doing for like the past 6 months. Did you? Was it like that much of a switch for you, David? Or was like Google pretty chill? Because I know they let us like work remotely like 1 day out of the week normally. So like I don't think it would be that much of a change. I guess meetings would be a little bit harder remote.
Do you still hear the echo?
No, no, no. Yeah, that fixed it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So at as you know, at Google, we do have a lot of meetings, and most of them are also based. Even though we are meeting in person, we also have to go on video calls, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we thought we were used to that working remote would be same as just like meeting on video,
Mm-hmm.
but it turns out to be it has been for first 3 months. It was really difficult for us to get anything done. Like like we there are some decisions that needed to be made like right away or in very near future, but uh, most Google meetings are 30 minutes long, and it is really hard to get hold of like 1 hour of like every member. So
Mm-hmm.
um, all the many decisions are getting postponed and delayed. So uh, that was kind of a troublesome for many of us in our team.
Yeah.
And also during COVID, the project that we were doing was helping people who are influenced by COVID. So
Mm.
the work amount we had to do was a lot.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
yeah, so the first 3 months of COVID was busier than any times I worked at Google.
Wow, that's crazy. Because you also like went through the unique thing of like we were um all contract, but then like you switched from contract to full time, and like that took like a whole amount of like interviews. Even though you were already working there, you still like went through rounds of interviews. And I remember you were like
Mm-hmm.
making a presentation of like all your work and explaining it to like high up people like at Google that had to like you essentially had to convince that you should like work good enough to like become full time. Is there anything that like you would have like advice for people that like want to try to go full time at Google, like since you went through that experience?
Yes. Okay. So I think the only advice is it's nice to you can explain about your project just more than the visual side,
Mm.
and how like it's slightly different than the talking about the concept as well, like how that ideas could develop into something bigger when it gets to the user. Like
Mm.
people know, like people who doesn't know design at Google also they have a um they can criticize, like well they can find out like where the missing holes in your like logic is.
Mm-hmm.
So it is good to have like a um how to say, like you should be able to really like talk about your work just besides design. That's all.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've even find like people where I've been like in the room when they've been interviewed, it's like they can kind of talk to like what they did or like technically explain like what they did, but like if I mean a lot of times they weren't the person making the design decisions as well, so like they don't really know how to talk to that or like specifically I remember a lot of that was the brunt of like when we I interviewed for like the contract position even they were like how would you like handle like this sort of like user interaction and like what would you like help with that and I was like ooh I don't know I don't really like think about users and like motion design but
Yeah.
that was like a big brain switch when we were doing our stuff um but like what I guess this is more of a history background but like I'm curious what got you guys into like doing this in the first place like did you go to college for it or did you like always do kind of like illustration, graphic design stuff as like kids and then just like went to college because that was like the easiest jump, or did you not even go to college for it? I guess Nicole, you can go first and then we'll switch to David.
Sure. So I I was going to like this art academy, I would
Oh,
say.
fancy.
It's like an after school program.
Oh, okay. When you were in like high school?
Yeah, in high school. Yeah. And my one of the instructor there actually graduated from Art Center
Mm,
where I went to college. So he kind of recommended, oh, maybe you should go to Art Center for a graphic design major if you're interested in computer graphics.
mm.
At that time, like Photoshop was just so fun for me. Like I just um, Yeah, and looking at like posters, I know this is really, it might sound lame now, but at the time when Devil Wears Prada movie
Okay.
came out, the poster had like this gigantic heel and it had the devil like
Like
what do you
pitchfork
call it?
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was in the on the bottom heel. And
Hmm.
I thought that was really creative and cool. So yeah, I was like, oh wow, I want to make something like this when I grow up. Maybe I want to do that for a living. So that's how I kind of entered art center as a graphic design major. And while I was there, all my friends wanted to focus in motion design
Mm.
because it was like the hottest new
Yeah.
thing, I guess, at the time. So I joined that crew and I was working a lot of working on a lot of like branding projects and then
Mm.
at school and then also working on motion and then that's what happened. Now I'm like a generalist, I would say. I
Yeah.
do branding projects still and motion design projects and ad agency like art direction projects. So
So
yeah.
like peer pressure in college mixed with like Anne Hathaway's film career is like what really got you into motion design.
I guess so. Like
Yeah.
it was a mixture, yeah, mixture of everything, like
Yeah, I think that happens to a
people
lot of
around me.
people at like college, like especially for me. Yeah, just like who my roommates were and like who I hung out with. They were like, "This is like what we're doing," and it's like it's just like more fun to like gravitate towards that. And like if it was already, I mean, so much of digital art already shares so much of other pieces, so it's like not that difficult to like decide to switch. It's not like going from like being a sculptor to like then doing motion design. It's like pretty easy if you know like Photoshop. You could like get into After Effects and then After Effects into Cinema 4D. It's all just like very relative. What about you, David?
Yeah.
So I really like to play soccer and watch soccer, and I also wanted to be a soccer player. But at college, I realized that I can't go for pro, maybe. So I was looking for different things to do, and as a kid, my mom always thought that I could be doing well in creative field. So I have been like also going to like art academy like Nicole did, and did my art practice. But that actually had nothing to do with why I went to motion graphics. So it was like around like 2010, and there was like a European Cup in soccer. And Nike did crazy advertisement, and I was like thinking, if I can go for pro for soccer, then maybe I could like work with those famous soccer players
Mm.
and make soccer ads. And one day I went to bookstore and there was a ad magazine, and there was a story about that ad that I really liked, and it had a like credit list, and the agent, it only showed an agency name at the
Mm.
time, and it was Saatchi and Saatchi. And funny that Saatchi and Saatchi LA office was right next to the bookstore.
Oh.
So after I saw that, and at the time I was like 21, so I didn't have any like common sense. So I literally walk up to Saatchi and Saatchi office, and I asked the front desk guy. I'm like a student. I introduced myself to the front desk guy, and can anyone come down and get my question? and and he was like, oh sure. And then let me like call up there, and I don't know if it was real or he was acting, but he was like calling someone. But I waited like 3 hours, but it was my summer break, so I didn't have anything to do, so I just waited 3 hours. I was just thinking, oh, maybe they're busy, so but they will come down. Um, and and then he made another call after he saw me waiting for 3 hours, and actually someone came down,
Oh wow.
and it was like a recruiting director or producer, I forgot. But I asked about the ad, and I asked her if I want to like meet players and also make cool things like this, what should I do and where should I go? And she gave me all the like paths that I can take, which
Hmm.
she was really nice. And I found out that all the uh, production work happens in design studios. I didn't know about anything about design studios back then.
Hmm.
So, and there was a time I knew about there's a difference, different tasks due between agency and the design studios. So
Mm-hmm.
there I learned, oh, maybe I need to go study design, and here I am.
That's crazy. I didn't know about that story at all. It seems like very much almost like out of a movie where you just like came out of the bookstore, saw the name, then like you like pans up and then there's like the design studio right there and you just like walk in. Can't believe you sat there for 3 hours. That's I guess that's like a lesson in like determination maybe and just like
No,
persistence.
because I literally didn't have anything to do.
Yeah. That's so funny. That's crazy. That's also such a
Yeah.
nice recruiter. I feel like most like design studios like would just be like, "Oh, yeah, I don't know, just like go to school as a designer, I don't know, and then like maybe we'll hire you." But to tell you all the different paths that you can take to get to do that. So this was all you just have you worked with any soccer projects? And has your dream come
Uh,
true?
well, yes, but not as a designer, but as like a creative lead and also a producer. It was the World Cup project that I Google collaborated with Adidas and Agency 72 and Sunny. Production house was the Mill,
Hmm,
and yeah, it was kind of like a dream come true, even though I didn't work on any like great design work.
that's fun. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I guess that's like another thing I've asked like everyone on here what their like Everest or like dream project would be. So I'm interested to see. I mean, I guess like yours was to do a soccer ad at some point. What's your like now that you've been in the industry for a little bit, what's your like dream project or have you already done it? I guess you can go first, Nicole.
Well, actually, this is a tricky question. I don't think I have like a certain goal, but I do want to take it. I really like exploring different projects. And one thing I haven't done so far is branding like physical store, I guess.
Hmm.
I haven't done anything like that. I've only done like digital
Mm-hmm.
stuff so far. So maybe that can be like my next goal. I know David always wanted to do like a cool like put my dog is scratching the dog. I know David also likes display
Mm-hmm.
installation, and because he told me about that like last year, I was looking into like a lot of like store designs, and yeah, maybe that would be like my next dream project.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like the
branding.
next level of branding because it's like a interactive experience sort of branding, which like takes the brand beyond like when people show it off as like stationary and then like a logo on a wall. It's like the next step where you get to like really design out a store. That's cool.
Hmm.
Is that like your dream thing, David? Also, is to do something like that?
Well, I was like a few months before joining Google, I was able to do convention design for auto show
Hmm.
for Audi. So but that used to be my dream goal, and somehow like I was lucky to get the job. But I still love to do anything like installation. So within Google, if there's any event that I can help out, I try to like help them out as much as I can. But uh, I always wanted my design would be impactful to many people, whether it looks cool or not. And that's why designing anything physical like store design or convention design was my goal, because it definitely gives more connectivity than just a video that I
Mm-hmm.
create. But as I'm working Google, I started to think about how can my design can influence more people, and I read and heard about that every presidency campaign, they would hire a specific agency, and they do have a very discreet camp that deals with all types of like media or design marketing,
Hmm.
like from posters or font choices and how even motion graphics. And I would like to be part of that presidency candidates camp one day, and trying to work with that like 3 or 4 uh, year long project. And
That'd be crazy.
like if he becomes a president, then design impacted the whole country's
That's true.
people. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember like the first time I like ever noticed a design campaign. I think it was like the like Obama's poster, which like became
Yeah.
like very like memorable. I was like, oh wow, like these are actually designed. Before that, I like never really paid attention to them really ever. They all kind of like red, white, and blue, and were like all the same. But
No, it's very strategic. And
mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah, I think they would work with like philosophers and many other parts of like social major people, and I think I will learn so much from that experience, I feel like.
Interesting. I guess going back to kind of the working at home slash burnout sort of stuff, what do you guys do that kind of kicks you out of burnout? Because it's like so monotonous now with like being working at home, and like your home is now work, and you just like it feels like you're working in the same space for like all the whole day, and then like you have to then live there. What do you guys have you like figured out a routine to like kind of get over that, or do you just kind of suffer with the burnout that comes along with like working from home? Because you've been doing it for like a little bit longer than just COVID lockdown, Nicole. So have you like found a routine that works that like other people could get advice from?
I guess this is non-work related, I guess, because well, first of all, first thing I did was I kind of redesigned my office space.
Mm.
Like I took out the old furnitures, the desk and my chair was very uncomfortable, and I kind of kind of switched everything out so it's like a new like office space for
Mm-hmm.
myself. So, and then once my hours are done, like at 7 p.m., I would leave the room and never come back inside. Yeah, and to like to have like a moment of like just to get out of the COVID situation, like I go to Trader Joe's and pick up flowers.
Hmm.
I That's just what I do for like to feel therapeutic.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So is
Other
your
than
house
that,
just full of flowers now because you do that so often?
we have fresh flowers.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's that. And then I got a dog, so I
Yeah.
get to walk him. I have to walk him, so every day, like I walk him for like 40 minutes, 50 minutes. So that's a really good getaway for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Other
I
than
think
that,
that also
yeah,
keeps me sane too. Is like, yeah,
yeah,
the every like 3 hours the dog has to go out, and so it's like you're at least getting up and like out of like the office for a little bit. But I think the office thing is a big deal. Like before, I used to have my stuff like just in the living room because we just had like a 1 bedroom, and then we moved to this place that had the second bedroom, and we like converted that into the office, and then like after 7:30 we like don't come back. We like shut the door and like don't come back in if we don't have to, which makes it like keep us way more sane and just like being able to leave the space. Is that what you do, David, or do you have to like, or you work all over the house just on like a laptop?
Um. Well, no, I don't really work on my laptop. I work on my desktop. But whenever I'm like burned down and need a space change, then I just pause my work and I can walk to Starbucks and
Hmm.
in my neighborhood. And the Starbucks has really nice view of ocean. Like
Oh,
it's
that's nice.
literally in front of ocean, and I just have like a cold brew cup of cold brew, and then come back, and
Yeah.
takes only about 15 minutes, so that's pretty refreshing.
Yeah. I do like the work from home allows you to take more like little breaks versus like when you're like in house at like an agency or like at an office, you're like it kind of feels weird. I guess at Google we pretty frequently like got up to like go get smoothies or like play ping pong or go get coffee. So the exception is at Google you're like pretty okay to like get up and take a walk, which was great because I think that more places should have stuff like that where you should be able to take like little breaks during the day and like get out of like a funk and like help you clear your head, or like if you're stuck on something it's easier. But I know at like a lot of ad agencies and stuff it's like you're just kind of like at your desk the whole day, and then like if you like got up to leave to go get coffee, like every 3 hours people would be like, what are you doing? But yeah, I think that that's a nice thing that Google definitely I miss about that kind of workspace was how much you could go do other stuff. And then they also let us kind of like have like a work from a different office, which I was like my favorite part of the week because it was like switching it up and like you got to try new food at like a new restaurant, which I miss a lot about Google. That's like one of the biggest things I miss was like the catering every day was like such a great thing. Do you miss that now, David? Now that you have to like cook all the meals yourself?
No, I still eat out a lot
Oh.
or order food a lot, but after like staying at Google 4 or 5 years, I feel like you can try different types of food in different offices, but the food ingredients kind of taste the same. I guess for example, they're getting same cabbage for every office.
Whoa, that's crazy.
So, yeah, but yeah, that's definitely a luxury that we have. But even when I was at Google, I always missed going to lunch with my colleagues and picking the restaurants. I did that when I was in studio with Nicole
Hmm.
too. Like I really missed that part. But at Google you can't really do that because you have cafeteria and you have to go there.
I guess you don't have to. You could be crazy
Yeah,
and go
yeah,
get like restaurant food, but it just makes no sense.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it was. Yeah. Did you miss it a lot? Like after you left Nicole, was that like a number one thing that you missed? I just remember that I missed it so much because I was like, a having to pay for lunch was like insane. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do this every day, and then also not having. It was kind of like a nice thing not to think about. It's like, oh, we could get salad or like whatever they're serving here, and that's like you didn't really think about your meals.
Yeah. You you didn't even have to bring a wallet to
Yeah,
work,
that's
which was
crazy.
amazing. Yeah. So I think I missed that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the fun. Everyone like always asked me that about like the perks, and I was just like, yeah, I mean it was good, but like it was also like kind of what you're saying. It's like you sort of get used to the food choices, and you're like, well, there's only like two options, which sounds crazy to complain about the food options that you're getting for free, but it was after a while it got like sort of repetitive. Um, yeah, it was crazy coming to the New York office here. Um, because like it's so many stories and like each one has like new food, and like I was here for like 5 days and I had like I ate on a different floor every day that I was here. It was just crazy how big
Oh,
that space
crazy.
is. But yeah, what are some other things that is there any personal projects or like upcoming projects that you guys want to promote or that people should look forward to? Your handles are like below you on screen if people want to follow you. But anything upcoming from either one of you that you can share? No, no, just other little
Not at the
doodles on
moment.
your account.
Yeah, I keep updating my website whenever a project is released, like from the design studio side.
Mm.
So, yeah, I think my website will be updated again, like within a month, maybe.
And
Yeah.
that's the same as like just your username and then at like .com.
Oh, it's actually NicoleChoi.info. That's
Okay.
where I put all the like work, real
Mm-hmm.
work stuff. Yeah.
Cool. What about you, David?
For me, I closed my website and I'm in process of building my website as
Ooh, what are
well.
you building it with? Like by hand or like Squarespace?
Using Cargo, but it's more about like the time that I'm spending most time was not about the layout. It's just what I need to write because
Mm.
some of the Google projects, if you just look at on my website, people might think, well, that's whatever. But what's important is the explanation, and I draft one out, and my wife, she's also a designer at YouTube. She said no one's gonna read that, so I'm um, I'm having huge dilemma how to really sell my self as a designer
Mm,
after Google.
yeah. Yeah, that was a hard thing in interviews. People are like, "Oh, cool! Like Google, what'd you do there?" I was like, "It's a little bit hard to explain." And they're like, "I was like, we like made these things, and they were like automated." And they're like, "What? That doesn't make any sense." And I was like, "Yeah." It was like, but they're like, "So you can do After Effects coding?" I was like, "Kind of,"
Yeah.
but I worked with
Yeah.
someone who did the coding more than I did. Yeah, it was very hard. It's definitely a good thing to have on the resume, but when people are like, oh, so like, what'd you do? It's like, it's kind of hard to explain. So I do not envy your dilemma of having to write that out so that people will like know what you did on so many different projects. Because the one that I
Yeah.
did, it was very hard to explain to people. How did you explain it to people, Nicole, when like they were like, cool, Google, or did they just like not even? They were just like, Google's cool.
Google's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just what they.
I just told them, oh, we did a lot of research and
Yes,
I
lots
can't
of
tell any
research.
about it. So
Yeah, same. So I was like, it was like automated, and that's like as far as I got. They're like,
No.
cool. I think I get it. Even like my family, I was trying to explain it to them, and they're like, he works at YouTube and makes ads. I was like, that's good enough. That
Yeah.
explains it a little bit. Yeah, that's funny.
So there is no other projects that I can share right
Hmm.
now, but will do.
All secretive, but everyone should go follow you guys. You have your handles there. Thank you for doing this. It was fun to catch up with you and get to talk about all this stuff of like how we met and all of that stuff. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to share? No.
just wanted to tell you that I'm impressed by you, Isaac, for doing so many passion projects.
I feel like I
It's
don't
yeah,
do very many, but thank you. That's nice.
Yeah.
I always feel
it's
like I'm
very
not putting out
inspirational.
stuff. That's fun.
Yeah. It
You're
is.
building human
Yeah.
Yeah.
like models too, so it's crazy.
The digital people that I'm making. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
like put
hard to
that
keep
down.
up with it.
Yeah, I get inspired by stuff, but only for like 2 weeks, and then I like never come back to it. So I feel like I'm never finishing anything. So people are like, you work on a lot of stuff," but I'm like, "Do I? I don't know. I just feel like I do stuff for like 1 week, put out a bunch of stuff, and then I don't do anything for like 2 months." But thank you. That's yeah, it's fun to just keep experimenting with all this stuff. I think that we can wrap it up there if there's nothing else that you guys want to do. Thank you again for coming on stream. And yeah, thank you for everyone that stopped by. And I'll see you, and this will be up on YouTube probably a week from now. But yeah, see ya.
Thanks
Bye.
for having me.
See
Bye.
ya.